Hello and welcome to The Positive Force. I'm Titus Wright. Today we got a fantastic topic. We're going to talk today about criminal and civil law. Yes, and what to take in order to accuse a person of a fault or crime. Yeah, very important here. We're talking about from the DA to the grand jury or just a regular citizen. We're going to talk more about that. In the topic today is the Prima Facie case. Stay with us. The case, yes. Prima facie basically means it's based on a first impression. In other words, you know how the law says you're innocent until proven guilty? Well, the Prima facie says you're guilty until someone proves you innocent. Yeah, when a grand jury hands down an indictment, or when a DA hands down an indictment, they call it a true bill. And that indictment carries some accusations against you. Prima facie evidence states that we have evidence, surrounding evidence and everything, to bring a case against you. They have enough evidence to accuse you of a crime. So they call it the Prima facie case. Without a Prima facie case, you can't do anything. Everything begins with the Prima facie. There are, or some people call it the Prima Facie, I call it the Prima Facie. They have different ways of pronouncing that word. Let's be consistent and say Prima Facie. Now, when you hear all these types of words, you'll hear that later on in a few minutes. Those words are from the Latin language. Why? Why does it say English? Because they want to confuse you enough that the common person won't understand it and will have to get a lawyer to interpret it. They make themselves necessary. So we have four parts of the Prima Facie case. And those parts are, more Latin, the ACTUS REUS, the mens rea, and then causation, and then the fourth one, any grading. Now, I'm going to go through each one of those four parts. Without a Prima Facie case, you have no case. Unless you can prove, okay, those areas, those elements of the Prima Facie case, you really have no case. Now, the first part we mentioned was the ACTUS REUS. That means conduct, results, and circumstances. That means the actual crime has been committed. And we have the conduct, we have the results, and we have the circumstances centering around that particular crime or accusation. Then you have the mens rea. Now, let me tell you about the mens rea. That was initially discovered in the 1800s, in the mid-1800s, Dr. Isaac Ray. Yes, he was a medical doctor at the age of 20 years old. He was a genius. Who becomes a medical doctor at the age of 20 years old? Dr. Isaac Ray. But the mens rea is fairly new, less than like 300 years old. Now, Dr. Isaac Ray said, you know what, why in the world are they just killing people? And a lot of people were just being electrocuted or hanged or whatever, gas, whatever the particular penalty was during that era. And not asking any questions, like why did he kill the whole family? They don't ask why. Dr. Isaac Ray said, ask the question, why did he do that? Who a person in their right mind would do that? This is where he came up with the conclusion of the mens rea. It means guilty mind or state of mind. Why did he do that? He was the first one to introduce psychiatry and the law. Said there is something going on in the mind of this person to kill their whole entire family and the dog and the frog, and he also killed the goldfish. What the heck? He can't be in his right mind. So that's when the mens rea was discovered. And Dr. Isaac Ray is the father of forensic science. As they say today, forensic medicine. Let's go into our third area, which is the causation inquiry. But for cause. In other words, if this hadn't happened, that wouldn't have happened. We look at the drug companies, we look at them, we say, well, when he drank the water, he died. Well, you can't just look at that. You got to look at what happened prior to him drinking the water. Let's test the water. Oh my gosh, this drug company was guilty of pouring toxics, or this fuel company was pouring toxics into the water. So now we have a cause and a fact. Because they did that, that's why that happened. But for a cause. If that hadn't happened, that wouldn't have happened. Okay? Causation inquiries. We're inquiring about what caused the problem. Grading, our fourth part, levels of crime. We're talking about, was it manslaughter? Was it intentional? Was it, what grade of the crime do we look at? Because the mens rea brought that element to this whole prima facie case, grading is now more important than ever. We have people saying crime of passion or temporarily insane. I went crazy. I was temporarily insane. Dr. Isaac Ray created the mens rea defense or element. He had no intentions of people abusing it. A lot of abuse with the mens rea. Of course, guilty mind. Why did he do what he did? There are a lot of insanity defenses and tests they're using today. They're using the cognitive tests, having the ability to know whether conduct was of a particular character. They have a test for that. Another test, control test. Was this person able to control their behavior based on their mental capacities? Yeah, that's another test there. Another test. There are tons of tests. I'm just giving you a few. Another one, the Durham test. That was based on a famous case during that time. And the irresistible impulse test. I just couldn't help it. I have a mental disorder, and I just couldn't help shooting people. Whatever it was you did. Okay. And then, of course, volitional test. But people have abused the mens rea. Dr. Isaac Ray did not have that intention, but you know how everything else works. People abuse things, take advantage of things, and you have lawyers. You know that the United States, our country, have 70% of the world's lawyers are right here in America. 70%! This is why when you watch TV, you see these law firms. They're giving you suggestions from drug companies. Have you been had a problem with this drug or that drug, slip and falls? They're actually giving you suggestions. Call us. We'll take care of it. Yeah, we're so crazy in this country. The prima facie case, you got to have that set up. And if the defendant can defend himself against all the accusations on the other elements in the prima facie case, of course, the burden of production or proof would lie on the initial person that's accusing the defendant. But then the defendant would have the burden to defend himself and come up with the proof that I didn't do it. Because the prima facie case says guilty until proven innocent. That's what the concept is, based on first impressions. We have inchoate crimes. Yeah. Attempt, intent, conspiracy, those type of things. Solicitation. You haven't even done it yet. I'm just soliciting it. So yes, the mens rea comes across with a lot of other elements involved in the prima facie case. Let's review what we just mentioned. We're looking at the 4 parts of the prima facie case which must be introduced in order to accuse someone of a crime. The 4 parts, let's review. Actus reus means the conduct, results, and circumstances of a crime. Mens rea, guilty mind, state of mind. What state of mind was that person in? Did they intend to do it? What were their intentions? Causation inquiries, or as they say, but for a cause. If this hadn't happened, that wouldn't have happened. Grading, levels of crime. What level of grading can we attribute to that particular crime? What levels? Okay, was it involuntary manslaughter, or was it voluntary manslaughter? Even DUI. A DUI. Was it voluntary intoxication? Or was it involuntary intoxication? When I say that, I'm talking about maybe the doc just went to the doctor, gave you this drug, didn't tell you not to drive. You're in the car driving. Now you're as if you're a drunk person, not knowing the side effects. That's what they call involuntary intoxication. So it could be your fault. It could not be your fault. The mens rea will find that out. And that's our program today about the Prima Facie case, ACTUS REUS, mens rea, causation and